This is Black Hole, Chapter 1. They called him the king, and he had ruled over the land of Ur his entire life. It was what he was born to do, not in a predestined sort of way, but in a determined by science sort of way. His entire life was pre-planned from the elite genes he decided before his birth to every school and teacher he would have from birth to adulthood. Now to you this may sound suffocating, but the king found it freeing. He had never suffered for even a moment in his life. He knew his purpose, he knew his place, just like everyone else in the land of Ur that followed the rules. Today was a day like any other. 70 degrees, calm winds, only slight environmental perturbations that had not yet been fixed by climate scientists. A slight scent of jasmine floated in the air. The king awoke at dawn, and a loyal servant, a boy named Jamashi, offered encouraging words as he helped the king dress and bathe. Afterwards, the king was served a delicious breakfast of fresh indigo fruit and meat, only the best, of course. Jamashi had been by the side of the king his entire life. And though he was a servant, he was happy, and professed that he would do anything for the king. His entire life, in fact, revolved around the king. He lived in a small cubby at the base of the king's bed and often disappeared there, out of sight until the king called for him. After breakfast, the king was met by one of his eldest advisors, Rocario. Rocario was tall and well-dressed in a long robe with tasteful gold and jade jewelry, and appeared impeccably groomed. Rocario told him of any happenings in the neighboring countries. There were none, of course, for all the neighbors were as controlled by science and just as peaceable as Ur. Rocario then told him of any needs of the people. There were none, for science and technology had accounted for all. Everything from food production to waste to entertainment was controlled by complex machines and algorithms and gene editing, along with a host of complicated technologies like nanorobots that could fight diseases and living robots that took care of editing the genes of animals to make them more docile. Rocario told the king of new scientific breakthroughs and exciting news, and here he had something to report. As Rocario began explaining the updates on the Black Hole project, the king interrupted and suggested they go for a jaunt and visit the lab, because it was so infrequent that something new happened. Rocario smiled and, as always, agreed. On the way there, from the king's lush villa in the palace, the two walked down 5 flights of stairs, out of the palace and into an immense, lush garden forest. It was not truly a forest, but a carefully monitored and controlled food forest and garden. They were greeted by dozens of friendly citizens, some out for a jog, others simply enjoying the sunshine, all of them as friendly as could genetically be possible. You know, Rocario said, we could wed you off to one of these luscious women out here. It is not unheard of. They were all made to serve you and make you happy. And it is not like the old days where we had to worry about unwanted children or diseases. The king laughed. No, he said, the biologist insisted Maki would make the best match for me, both in personality and biology, and I have no desire for excess carnal pleasures. He smiled as he reveled in his conceitedness. Rocario smiled too. Ah, well, the option is always there, he said, continuing to leer at the incredibly attractive people dancing in the woods, many of them topless or completely naked and unashamed. After an hour of walking, they came upon the lab, carefully hidden in the forest as a huge fake boulder. The two raised their hands, and one side of the rock wall seemed to disintegrate, then reform once the king and Rocario stepped inside. The rock was actually a lab, a marvel of living nanotechnology. A man with huge glasses and an intense gaze noticed them and shouted in delayed shock. "Is anything wrong?" the man asked. "No, of course not," the king said calmly. "I just wanted to see you in person." "You could have telecalled or sent a message by InstaWave," the man said, glancing distractedly back at his work. The king smiled. "I just wanted to see what you are working on personally," he said. He sensed the man's avoidance and anxiety and placed a hand on his shoulder to calm him, a trick he had learned in etiquette classes. The man smiled nervously. "As you know," he began, "we have been working on the black hole generator. For all the advances our society has made, rewriting DNA at will, ensuring perfect ecosystem stability, creating endless fusion energy, the one thing that has eluded us is the creation of black holes. If we succeed, we will be able to create entire new universes inside them, ones where we control absolutely everything. Of course, it is not just egotistical pressures that drive us to make these black holes. We will need them. We will need to create one, to create a new universe when our sun begins to die." "Of course, Dr. Gavel," the king said. "This is all old news." Dr. Gavel looked around nervously and made a series of hand signals. The wall lit up, displaying a complex formula. "What's this?" the king asked. "Based on evidence from previous civilizations," the doctor said. "Staring at the floor, we knew the sun would one day expand and make Earth uninhabitable." "Yes," the king said, "about 400 million years in the future." Dr. Gavel scoffed. "The math was wrong. Very wrong," he said. "And our math had errors too." "What are you saying?" the king asked, feeling fear for the first time, perhaps in his life. "I am saying we may have only a few years before the sun begins expanding and making Earth uninhabitable. Those solar storms last summer were nothing," the doctor said gravely. The king sighed. "But we have a solution, right? The black hole is almost complete." "It's nearly there," the doctor said, "but it's untested, unsafe." The king smiled. "We have figured our way out of so much more before. We will figure this out, too." The doctor began to protest, but the king silenced him with a finger to his lips. "I believe in you," the king said. The king returned to his palace with Rocario, and as soon as he returned, he stopped worrying and did not think any more about what had happened that morning. Jamashi fed him lunch, massaged his back, and played turnip ball with him, assuring him throughout that everything would be fine and that he had acted perfectly, as always. As the day wore on, Maki, his bride-to-be, arrived, and as was tradition, they danced. They kissed as night fell and sat on the balcony, where birds ate from their hands and bees danced harmlessly on their laps. They picked fruit from the pomadam plant, and as they did, almost instantly, a new one began to grow. They savored the taste and fell under its euphoric spell. That night, the king pulled a lever, and the ceiling above their bed turned to glass, revealing the cosmos above them. The stars, amplified by the glass that covered the land of Ur, shone in iridescent hues of violet, magenta, and turquoise. The king smiled, and so did Maki, and they made love. Life could not have been more perfect. Chapter 2. A few days later, Jamashi woke the king as the sun rose. The king rubbed his eyes. "Are you okay?" Jamashi asked. The king smiled. "Bring me the elixir." "But you used it yesterday," Jamashi said. "Are you not duty-bound to me?" the king snapped, sitting up but doubling over with nausea. "Yes, sir," Jamashi said, running barefoot through the palace, almost tripping, but refusing to slow down, and a minute later returning with a small vial. The king tilted his head back and drank. In an instant, His nausea was gone. "Why do you worry so?" the king asked. "I am healthy. This elixir is a miracle." "I worry because I serve you and you use the elixir in excess," Jamashi said, bowing. The king smiled and stepped down on Jamashi's back as he descended to the floor. "You were lucky you still have your original organs," Maki said as the two of them walked to breakfast. Jamashi helped the king dress. "I am lucky to get hangovers?" the king asked. "The lack of hangovers is nice," Maki said, "but it comes with a price. No pain, but no real pleasure either." "Sounds like a good trade-off," the king smirked. Dr. Gavel was waiting at the table. "Today is the meeting with the ambassador of El," he said. "I know," the king replied. "What are you doing here?" "They know about the impending end of our solar system. I was duty-bound to present all the facts to them. And I'm sure they have their own plans for the ending of the solar system as we know it," the king said. "They intend to just let the universe unfold unimpeded, as it intends," the doctor said. The king spat out his yogurt. Maki stopped massaging his neck. "They engineer food, children, disease resistance, just like us," the king said. "But they have a point," the doctor replied. "Maybe this is something that should not be meddled with. It goes too far, and if it goes wrong, the results could be catastrophic. Science demands pioneers. One's willing to break a few eggs," the king said as he settled back in for a massage. "All our solutions are untested," he continued, "unproven, unsafe." They looked out at the perfect mountains. The king held out his hand, and a bird landed and calmly ate fruit. "We made all of this," the king said. "We designed all of it. Even these calm birds." Maki excused herself. The doctor tried to argue, but the king raised his hand. "Are our two nations at a deadlock?" the king asked. "The court has used everything they know to try to ply their queen and make her more open to our point of view. We have given them our best food, our best spa treatments, but at the end of the day, the choice is that of their queen," the doctor said, "and she does not want us to proceed with the black hole." "And neither do I," the doctor admitted. "It may be more dangerous than moving Earth along the plasma rivers to a more suitable place in the Milky Way." The king sighed. "Send her in." As he waited, the king touched a call button on his wrist. Jamashi came running from hearing the call. "I need another elixir," the king said. "But you are not ill," Jamashi replied. "This one is for other purposes," the king said. "The queen needs convincing." Jamashi gulped. "I will program it to make her more suggestible." The king smiled. "Thank you," he said, as Jamashi ran off, saying that the queen's tea had arrived.